The HOKA Mach 5 versus the HOKA Mach 6. Let's officially compare the legacy and the successor. Let's get into it. So before we get into the video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're already subscribed watching the content. Thanks so much, love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Strava and all sorts of other social medias for all sorts of other updates and things like that. So without further ado, let's begin. Specs for both shoes, somewhere here respectively where they won't contrast with the background. And yeah, let's just briefly just get into the Mach series. So this is a shoe I kind of stumbled onto in, I think, late 2020, early 21 with the Mach 4. Just being an extremely fun, snappy, daily trainer that I could use whenever I was doing any sort of workout. And I mean like anything. I mean like the easy workouts, the fast workouts, not necessarily race stuff. That's what the race shoe was reserved for. But it was just an extremely great shoe all across the board. And then comes in the Mach 5, which was basically introducing our first piece of discussion, which is this ProFly Plus foam, which was an upgrade to the ProFly. And it's just a lot squishier, a lot spongier, gave more of kind of that responsiveness to the shoe that you would look for if you wanted the extra snap, extra speed, and just a nice turnover as we kind of go along. And then we come into the Mach 6, which has some interesting changes all across the shoe, which we will compare as we kind of go in. So, as you can probably already tell right off the rip, if we start from the bottom going all the way to the top, we have two different kinds of outsole party pieces here on the shoe. We do have, in the Mach 6, this EVA foam basically covered up with a few rubber pieces across the shoe to overall extend the life of the shoe, but also give a little bit more reinforcement and protection for the foam, which otherwise would probably take an exorbitant amount of damage as you're running on the daily basis, as you can probably see from the Mach 5 itself, right? So this is just purely exposed foam with a pattern that kind of resembled more of what you see in the heel here. And at the shoe being at about 200 miles here, you can see I've eaten right past the EVA foam on this shoe, and I've kind of gotten right into the ProFly, which, without a whole lot of support from the EVA, causes issues in terms of impact and those kinds of pains across your ankle, feet, knees. So the EVA foam is really good for ensuring that you can have at least a safe quality run, and without that in this area when I was supinating, this kind of causes issues, right? So that's kind of what we've got going on in the foam. We have ProFly Plus with an EVA on the bottom, whereas this shoe is just using EVA all the way across the shoe itself. Now, other main differences here to note is that the Mach 6 runs slightly, I believe, heavier than the Mach 5, and at least in my case, by about 0.3, 0.4 ounces. The numbers may not be accurate, but this is kind of what I've got going on here with these particular pairs. There's a little bit more weight, again, because of the rubber, whereas on the Mach 5, less material, but as a result kind of has a more, I guess, volatile lifespan, you can say. Volatile might not be the word. I'll probably find it as we get along here. But the other major difference between both shoes, as you can see right off the rip, is that by adding, I think it's about 7 or 8 millimeters to the whole stack of the shoe, this thing is running at about 37 millimeters in the heel and about 32 in the forefoot, keeping us the 5 millimeter offset, but it runs as a higher stack shoe than the Mach 5, which otherwise was more of a mid-stack shoe, running at about 29 in the heel, 24 in the forefoot, giving us the 5 millimeter offset. So we keep the offset, which in turn allows the foot to still kind of strike in a similar way, but with the higher stack, it provides a little bit more protection for the shoe, but you lose a little bit more of that natural feel that you would have otherwise had in the Mach 5. Now, in the uppers, we have two major differences, not necessarily in materials themselves, as you can probably guess. The compounds are mostly the same. It is this, fiber top that's running the entire duration of the shoe. It's this mesh upper pattern that's, I guess, kind of neat. The patterns are different between both shoes, not that that should affect the ride necessarily, but in this particular shoe, the toe box runs a little bit wider than in the Mach 6, and that was one of my big talking points in the Mach 6 50 plus mile review, is that I enjoyed the Mach 5 initially because the toe box ran a little bit wider. You had more room to expand your foot and have it sink into the insole, into the insole of the shoe, kind of create your own padding in the shoe, and then over time you'd be able to tighten it down and lock it down and get that feel basically throughout the duration of the shoe, and as a result, it'd be a very comfortable ride. Whereas in the Mach 6, super tight in the toe box, you're basically banging your toes against the front area of the toe box, which, by the way, is nicely reinforced, but the ride in this toe box is so tight, you're almost hesitant that you're going to have a good workout, and basically in my case, it's just not really working the way I would have liked it to, and as a result, it's just a shoe that I cannot continue in good conscience to run in and tell you it's so good, because like realistically the shoe could be good, and in a best case scenario I would just size up half a size. But I think my future endeavor with the Mach 6 will be to take the money from Mach 6 and invest it into a more speed daily racer style shoe from this brand. So that's kind of the tangent as to future plans with Mach 6. But last thing probably to discuss are the rides themselves. So, as you probably guessed, with the ProFly EVA combination that's provided in the Mach 5, there's a lot more snap, a lot more sponge, and a lot, in my opinion, a greater return in this shoe. But the trade-off is that the lifespan does take an extremely brutal beatdown. Like, don't expect, if you were as aggressive as a runner as I was in 2022, 23, when your shoes would look like this after, 200 miles, for the shoe to get anywhere past 300 and 350 for you. If you're not as aggressive, if you're more toned down, if you have a better, if you had a better, I guess, like gait and strike pattern than I had at this time, don't expect the shoe to last a very long time, is just kind of what I'm getting at. And if you increase the chances of running on gravel or like weird conditions like that, if you go trail running in this thing, like forget it, man, you're going to destroy this thing. Whereas in the Mach 6, I'm expecting the lifespan of the shoe to be better, just because of the rubber reinforcement. Maybe this middle area will take more of a beating. That's kind of expected, as I would say, because it's just kind of, it is exposed and it is kind of taking a beating, as we see. But with the EVA foam all the way across, it doesn't have nearly as much snap as the Mach 5, but what you are trading off in kind of this return, you're trading off in a lot more stability of a shoe with a higher stack and a longer lifespan. So those are kind of just really the conditions I'm laying out, simply put. I don't want to go into like any massive in-depth things because I don't think we really need to. I think I could just kind of explain this in like, I guess at the time of this YouTube recording, like in less than 10 minutes, really. So if you had to pick one shoe to buy, which one would you buy, right? Again, for you, it depends, right? Do you want to spend, I think the shoe was like less than $160 when I bought it. And I think the Mach 6 might even be $160. So like, they're in the same price range. Do you want to buy a shoe that is going to have a lot more sponge, a lot more speed, and is going to have a little bit more comfort, but a more volatile, shorter lifespan than a shoe that is going to run or feel slightly slower, have better reinforcement on the bottom of the shoe, have a higher stack height, which will ultimately protect your joints, and may have a tighter toe box as a result? So we're kind of, I guess, picking at, not necessarily picking at straws, we're just like, I'm micro picking at the things here because, again, at the end of the day, both of these shoes are really good daily trainers. The one caveat here is with the Mach 6, in my opinion, whatever size you typically wear in a Nike shoe, half size up is probably the move. And if you do that, I would say both shoes run fairly well with slight changes in between them. But if you need like a shoe that's way faster than any other daily trainer on the market, like, these are not the shoes I would look for the fastest things available at that point. You would probably look for a daily trainer with a carbon plate or a nylon plate or some kind of combination of like that, or energy rods if you're into Adidas. But as standalones, as a shoe without a carbon plate, rubber all the way across with good or highly reputable foam running across the shoes from a highly reputable brand, in my opinion. Both shoes are ultimately okay. Just personally, I would still lean more for the Mach 5 just based on sole, previous experience, and fun with the ride of this shoe overall, despite the lifespan being nearly as bad as it was. The one trade-off there with the Mach 5, and this is probably like my inner girly, is that with the Mach 5, there's a lot of really sick color combinations with the shoe. So if you burn this thing down in like less than a month or 2 months, and you're just sick of the color span, you basically just change it out for a fairly cheap price, in my opinion, and you would just have a really good time with a different color scheme with a shoe that you may just ultimately like. So I don't know what the price of the Mach 5 is available right now with the Mach 6 out. I imagine it's like a smidgen less, but I wouldn't expect it if that was the case. It would surprise me if the shoe was the exact same price, because why would a legacy shoe kind of fall under a exact same price tag kind of category, unless it was a race shoe and everybody knew it was a good race shoe. So yeah, that's kind of my overall assessment. Just the real summary here is Mach 5, a lot more speed, really cool combination with the EVA foam and the ProFly Plus running across the shoe. In my opinion, a better toe box. It's a little bit wider, allows for more flexibility, so over time you can tighten the shoe down and it's a better ride. And it has a lot more snap and a lot more response than the Mach 6, which is designed to last longer as a daily trainer, has a higher stack height, so it protects your joints overall in the grand scheme of things. Tighter toe box, which means you should probably size up just so it's a little bit more comfortable. And yeah, the EVA just all the way across is to give you more comfort rather than speed. So those are probably, I think, the main elements to consider while you are picking out from these particular shoes. So I'll leave it at that. If you agree or disagree with the assessment, let me know in the comments below. If you think that there's some things I'm missing here, or you have an experience point you'd like to discuss, again, let me know in the comments as well. Happy to discuss, and I do read these comments when it comes to these things, because maybe there's something I missed talking about and you guys bring up a really good point. Like, send it in there. Let's talk about it. We're all trying to figure this out. We're all trying to make it. So let's get the discussion going if there's anything to discuss. So I will leave it here. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.